Middays. Dave Hughes here, and joining us now, lecturer in economics at Mississippi State University, Jim Leggette joins us. How you doing this morning, sir?
Doing great, Dave. How about yourself? I just discovered my headset's on the fritz, so make sure I talk loudly.
You're
I
doing
know what to
fine.
go do, but I know what to go do, but I only had 1 minute, so I'm not going to do it because it means I'll screw it up totally.
That is the life of radio broadcasting. You just summed it up perfectly. I've only got a minute. That's not enough time. That's the whole thing. Now,
and I'm fixing it when we adjourn. It'll be easy.
Oh, yeah, it'll be simple then. It's no problem. Then it'll be too late. That's the way it always works. But it sounds fine. Let's start with the basic question I think everybody asks, except twisting it slightly. And the question is this: is the economy as bad as everybody seems to think it is?
I kind of have a very middle of the road answer. There's an analyst I really like. He describes the economy as the great muddle through, meaning it's not the end of the world, and nor is it happy days are here again. And the line he used in his newsletter that goes to like 1 million people said something about, okay, it's not good enough to have boom time, but it's also strong enough that we're not having the Great Depression either. I think part of it is, it's politics. If you're in charge, you say it's the best economy ever. If you're out of power, these yahoos are destroying the world. I think there are some clouds of uncertainty. We really don't know how the tariffs will play out. They really haven't kicked in. And we're going to find out whether Adam Smith and David Ricardo, the founders of, I'll call it free trade, or Donald Trump and Peter Navarro are correct. I'm going with Smith and Ricardo because that's what I learned.
You have no choice, do you?
Well, it's kind of where I was taught.
Let me ask you about this aspect of the economy, and this one's starting to get a little more play and a little more discussion, and that's the housing market. The Federal Reserve Bank out of Atlanta has put out a chart charting all of the information. The median household income necessary to buy the medium-priced home, so median income, median home, is now 57% higher. The price of a median-priced home, 57% higher than the median household income. Is that going to get better? Is this trend going to continue? And how do we fix it if we can? I'm only asking you to solve the small problems here, Jim.
Well, that's okay. Hey, we're economists. We can do the big stuff. We can't figure out how to balance our checkbooks. And my wife is a real estate broker, and she could certainly say more about that. And I think part of what's driving that is, we're still paying the price for cheap money a few years ago. Because if you dig into what they're talking about, it's the interest rates. And I think we all want interest rates to be lower, but you don't want to do it too quick because you get to go do it again. And I think if you look at our housing, it's almost spooky how important it is to our economy. Drive around Jackson or pick your favorite city. How many people are connected with the housing market? You got Lowe's, you got Home Depot, all the great entrepreneurs who do heating and air. Well, by the way, we love our heating and air conditioner guys this time of year, but it's really critical that, if you look at our market, what we've learned is, low interest rates really bite you much as we like them. It motivated, when I say our market, I mean Starkville, it motivated people to build bigger homes, which were affordable at 3% interest rates, and they're not affordable at 6 to 7. And then what's happened, watching the dynamics my wife talks about, plenty of inventory at the high end, middle end for the, there isn't any, and Starkville's affordable market. Go to California, go outside DC, go to New Jersey. So, that is disturbing. And I think one of the geniuses of our American economy, you look at, we talk about how important World War II is as a geopolitical thing, but ponder how that country changed. You think about the GI Bill. You think about the Levitt towns. These were the affordable houses that the GIs could buy with federal help. That you could argue that sort of stuff really changed the world. And the fact these guys, and mostly guys, but also women, who served, went to college, which was an unattainable dream, and given the maturity they had, they did some pretty remarkable things. So all that cycling back is it is a problem. I think you get there by making sure you have stable prices. If you have stable prices, you get low interest rates, and this problem kind of works itself out. Now, I think the other thing you could do is, take a place like San Francisco.
No, I don't want it. Thanks, but no.
But I mean, because of their zoning, nobody can build anything. So you have, just like Manhattan, you have the very wealthy and the guy who lives in a box and nothing in between.
And that's exactly right. It's a supply and demand issue to a certain extent. But I will say this: I'm looking at this graph, and the price in, say, 2021, early 2022, was about equal to what it was in about 2005. The home prices, and then it shot up, and it has increased from around $70,000 for a median-priced house up to $120,000 plus for basically the same level of housing. Is there also a little bit of profit taking going on here with people going, oh, well, now's the time, now's the market, we got to go and get this? And what makes that come back down to reality?
Well, I think if the other graph that would be interesting to put with that, if you track the rate of inflation during that same period, they're the same thing. And then, and my wife certainly tells more. But remember a time where you could, not that long ago, you could put your house on the market and you expect to get over $100,000 over asking, and think that's wonderful. That's not normal. And then people are happy. Look at all the money I made. Yeah, buddy, but you need to go buy another house. So I think that market, those who made a boatload of money that time, they're better than me, in the sense they happen to be the right time at the right place. I'm always the guy, if I buy something, that goes the other way. So I think we're still working our way through that, and I think this is one of those subtle examples of why you better not have inflation. We see the easy stuff like it cost you more to buy groceries. But I mean, the fact that, I'll call it the young professionals, let's call them 25 to 35, who have two decent jobs, they can't afford anything. And it's hard in Mississippi. Ponder what it's like in D.C., Northeast, California. They can't even touch it. And I think
California is a whole different planet.
Yeah. And my wife will point out, and I've become to agree, if you look at how the average American obtains wealth, well, part of it is 401k, you save early and often. But if you look at most every regular person's net worth is tied up in their home. Which is great money, but you can't get to it. Or at least you shouldn't get to it. You can cash it out, but they want to be paid back.
Yeah, exactly. You're just extending the payments at that point. Yeah. I think you touched on something that is kind of important, though, and I think this is going to be right in your wheelhouse. I'm going to give you the opportunity to give a quick lecture. We're coming up on a break. You might want to wait until after and tell me after the break and come back if you do. As you said, getting $100,000 over asking price is not normal. Yeah. A lot of our problems, I think, come from a lack of knowledge of history and how things work.
I agree.
And I think that we need to do a better job, but is that even possible? And, as I ask this question, I'm thinking, let's wait till after the break, because he's got some things to say about this. Yeah. You've probably held lectures in class on this kind of thing, because we do have a tendency to not know what has come before and think what is happening now is normal because that's the way it's been for the last 20
Yeah.
years, 30 years, whatever. That's not the case. That's not the way anything works. But
Yeah.
you can't get well until you realize you're sick. And we seem to have a really bad skill at that. We've got Jim Leggette, and I'm going to turn him loose on you. I would apologize, but there ain't nothing to be sorry about. When we come back after the break here on Middays, live at the Element Wealth Studios on SuperTalk, Mississippi. Keep it here, Mississippi Middays in the Element Wealth Studios. Dave Hughes here. Jim Leggette, lecturer in economics at Mississippi State University in the Great Burg of Starkville, Mississippi. And I am now going to set him loose on you, but you need to look at this from the proper perspective. You're about to get a free class from a Mississippi State economics lecturer. I know it's coming, Jim. What we were talking about in the question I was asking.
And there's no exam.
The break. And there's no. This is getting better by the second. The question is, how much of our current problems are created because we don't realize the current state of things because we have no idea the way it's really supposed to be due to a lack of knowledge of history and how it's worked in the past? And now I'm just going to turn you loose.
Well, that's interesting. I think it was either Wall Street Journal or New York Times had an article to that effect, bemoaning the idea that they said Americans, I really think humans, have a, my long frame is yesterday. One of the things that even attracted me about economics to begin with, I don't terribly like the technical part, but I do like the fact it helps you understand human motivation and human behavior, and particularly history. I think if you look at all the stuff behind me, you think I was a history guy, not an economics guy. But I find looking at history, understanding the economic motivation, helps the whole world come forward. And if you look at, say, the Great Depression, one of the things you learn there is when the stock market goes nutso, it's probably not because it's that valuable. It's because Dave wants to hop in because he wants to get rich. I remember John Kennedy's father said something. He was a major player on Wall Street. And when his shoeshine boy was giving him stock tips and thought this was easy, he said, "I'm out." And I think what we've lost track of, that if violate's the right word, violate and or ignore fundamental principles like markets don't go up rapidly without falling rapidly. If you spend more money than you got, it ends poorly. And ponder our parents' generation. Use my dad, for example. His family lost their house. Probably because they took some chances that seemed reasonable that didn't play out. And as a consequence, he was deathly afraid of debt. He paid off his business loans, his house very early, and he resisted having a credit card and only did it because he didn't want to carry cash in his later years. And then if you look at my generation, particularly ones that they think, I've got a $50,000 credit limit. That means I should use it all. And as we know, that doesn't work. So I guess what I would say to folks, if you really want to understand what's going on, go look at history. I got two quotes on that. Harry Truman, people think he was dummy, but he really wasn't. And he studied history. And he said, if you want to know what's going on, it's just look at the history you don't know. The other quote I really like on that, Mark Twain, by the way, every quote is either Mark Twain or Winston Churchill, if you don't know who the author is. But he said, history doesn't always repeat, but it rhymes. So one of the things I try to get my students is I'm going to show you some economic tools. And then I'm going to use these tools to explain why the Great Depression happened, why the financial crisis of 2008 happened, and hopefully stress upon them, if you ever spend more money than you got, it never ends well for an individual, a company, or society. And hopefully it takes for some of them. I'm sure some of them it doesn't. But that's why, most people don't like history. Most people don't like economics. But I think it's a powerful, if you can find a way to combine the two. And I think the point you were trying to motivate is, think about 2021. When the Fed cut interest rates down to zero, and I think my wife and I woke up on a Monday morning, I said something to her. That's going to be a problem one day. She properly asked how long. I think I said 18 months. I was wrong. It was 6 months. But it wasn't an unpredictable outcome. If you really want to get scared about the price of cheap money, go look at Germany, October 1923, when it was actually literally translates to paper collapse. And they were basically paying their World War One debts with printed money. And then you had political instability. Ponder this number. In 1 month, the inflation rate was 29,500%. Ponder what that does to us. Ponder what that does to society. October 1, Dave's a millionaire. October 31st, you're selling the China so you can buy dinner. And then a guy like Hitler becomes kind of interesting then, right? And I find some students love that story, because, now I see why.
Well, and that's part of what makes really bad ideas more attractive when you're in that kind of situation. We are out of
when
time.
When you're hungry and desperate,
break.
you fall for anything.
Yes, that's exactly
when you're hungry
right.
And desperate,
We're only
you fall for anything.
What's the expression? Everyone on the planet is 5 missed meals away from doing anything, basically.
Well, that's true.
And that is very much the truth. Jim Leggette, lecturer at Mississippi State University in historical economics. I'm just going to change your title. How about that?
I like that. That's where my heart is.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time. We've got news from Fox News, SuperTalk Mississippi News, and an hour number 2 of Middays on the way next.